So let's start with some of the obvious cultural differences.
Yeah.
What's so noticeable? What would be noticeable to you coming here, being here? Uncanny things, crazy things, things you had to get used to or still
Yeah.
trying to get used
As an
to.
Aussie in LA,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So I definitely think that the driving is very, very different. Like in Australia, we're almost like sticklers for the rules. But here I was like, oh, is that a rule? Apparently it's supposed to be a rule, but people just don't, like indicators. Indicators are a really funny thing.
Turn
Like,
signals.
people- yeah. Oh yes, turn signals, yeah. Where people choose to use them. Sometimes they just don't. They just change lanes from the middle lane or turn or...
They take driving seriously there because there's a P license that's on your car.
You have to
So
go
the
through
other
3
drivers know
licenses.
just how skilled you are or
Yes.
not. So when you go back, do you have to readjust? I mean, noticeably so. You have to give it that much.
Do you know what? I'm a bit of a freak because I know a lot of people that don't. But like in Australia, we drive on the other side of the car, on the other side of the road. So it's a very big adjustment. When I was traveling back and forth, remember we were talking about that, and I would literally get out of the airplane, go to a car and hire a car, or get back in my car and drive almost immediately, and I was not weirded out. But the time you do get weird, and it's not on the main roads where there's lights and there's traffic and you can follow, it's on the back suburb streets where all of a sudden you'll be driving and then you'll be like, oh, wrong side of the road. And it's the time that you're thinking this is not going to happen, or you'll turn into a driveway and it just so happens you're turning into the oncoming traffic, and then you're like, oh wow, I'm literally driving.
No kidding. I think I told you I did that in Redfern one night, like 12 o'clock at night. And I drove an American Hummer where the steering wheel is on the other side.
In Australia?
In Australia, and driving on the other side of the street, going to a polo match. I mean, come on.
God.
Talk about your adventure.
I know.
And the heads that turned, it was a all black with chrome edging Hummer. And I'm on the other, yeah, come on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, what a time, What a place.
That's definitely been an adjustment. The other one is what I call the free pour, which is when you go out to a bar here and they just like...
A free pour?
They free pour your alcohol.
Oh, instead of weighing it.
Yeah, because in Australia, again, we're sticklers, even though we really like to drink. This is a very Aussie thing. But when you go out, they have like a little shot glass and they're very specific on your shots that you have, if it's 1 shot or 2 shots, because of, again, all the driving rules. So they're very regimented with how much they consider a standard drink to be. Whereas I remember going to bars here and they'd be like, there we go, and here's your drink. And you don't realize, but it's a lot stronger because they're not
paying attention.
They're not paying attention to it as much.
So I got one for you.
Okay.
For me, it's going up or down an escalator or a stair in the subway. Everyone's over on one side automatically. So you let the people who are coming down. How polite is that?
Yeah.
Here it's willy-nilly, it's a mix and match. Nobody cares. Over here,
I never even thought about that.
come on, it's the little things. Yes. Another one would be, I had it and I forgot about pub food. Oh my
You're speaking my
goodness.
husband's language. He just got excited. I'm pretty sure he just chimed in with a. It makes me think of a chicken parmesan.
And you were talking,
Apparently can't speak chicken.
What do you call it?
Parmigiana. Chicken parm.
chicken parmesan.
Yeah, chicken parm. Or palmy.
Pub food is delicious and it's plated so beautifully. It's like they care about the food.
Well, the Aussie pubs, I mean, that's like another culture thing, right? The Aussie pubs are like this kind of, it's a family environment.
Or hotels, they call them.
Yeah. And like, so the family go and there's obviously there's drinking and things like that, but it's like a family atmosphere. It's a very rare spots here that you actually can do that with.
And you have pokies in a lot of places.
Gambling.
But which we don't have.
No. No, because I mean, like, obviously there's only the limit.
Which is the slot machines.
But you have them everywhere in every single pub or hotel that you can,
So on the rocks being the first, I think, what'd you call it, the first?
Like, it's one of the first original, like, settlement spots, where people, like, where our ancestors in Australia came and settled and colonized and all of that stuff,
And it's one of the few places that there are actual rooms in the hotels.
There would be. There would only be some very specific pub/hotel locations around Australia. There would still be some, even in rural spots, that still have, like, rooms where you could stay, like, which was very, very old school.
Do you know the Bank Hotel in Newtown?
I know of the
Ah,
yeah.
favorite. Dancing, no rooms, but good food, and lots of good dancing and good people. It's like the Village to me in New York City.
That's
That area, pretty much,
It has
Newtown.
that, yeah, it has that vibe for sure. Okay, so now that we've kind of covered this kind of surface cultural shock, what about the deeper stuff?
There was noticeable racism for me there in Australia. Specifically, me being an actor, I could never make a living there as an actor. And checking the billboards, be it on the bus stations, the buses, train stations, as you walk the platforms, I noticed the faces that were there. They were all blonde for the most part, beautiful. Every once in a while, they threw in an Aboriginal person. But for the most part, and I started to feel that, even though in the beginning I got work, I got a commercial, something, I forget what the product was, and I got a couple of plays, but that was only because of the timing, Short and Sweet Festival. That's not all year round. And you could walk into a store, and sometimes, depending on if it was a good day, if someone heard me speak, I thought, oh, okay, they liked me. But on a bad day, and there were many towards the end, I felt a different kind of way because I noticed you could feel a vibe that's being directed at you.
Yeah.
The looks. Or I was walking down the street with a friend who was a white Australian lady and some guy in the car, and he yelled something out, and I didn't quite hear it, but I looked at and saw his face, and it was like, why are you walking with him? That kind of thing. Or, you felt it. Or I'd hang out with some friends that I thought were friends in Bondi, and because it was cool that I was a tourist, it was great. But I noticed when I started to say things like, I want to stay, I would like to stay, it started to turn. They didn't invite me to many things. One guy who was the actual friend that I met at the Mondrian, who said, when you come out there, we'd like to have you. And I went to see him play on Pitt Street somewhere. And that was great. So we went to his house in Bondi, and his friend, the friend of mine, said, I got a friend who would get you work, because he was a party events guy, promoter. And when Daniel says to this guy, can you get my friend a job? I saw the look on his face. That wasn't, exactly not because he's black, but over time, me pressuring or asking more and more, could I got that he didn't want me to work there.
Yeah.
You try to keep an open mind, but sometimes it's just obvious.
I think that Australia is definitely advanced, nowhere near as much as it could have been, but it is a very different space. And I mean, we talk about the definitive racism or discrimination against, the black community or Aboriginals or something, but it went much deeper than that. Like I'm classified as a WOG in Australia, which is a term.
And I've heard that word there.
Yeah, which is a term that, people would throw around to each other if we're like, I'm with an Italian or whatever, and it would mean nothing because it's within our community. But it is a racist term that was derived from people that came from certain parts of Europe, and that colonized at that time. So, when I was growing up, it was a big factor for me with discrimination. I had kids that used to throw food at me and call me like a little wog, and like it was not a very nice. So my mom, as we've spoken about, was a famous actress, and she had this very famous commercial that she was the face of for about close to 40 years. Like, so it's a very hard thing to be the face and of this particular product, and she made a lot of money from the brand. And there was a commercial they were going to do where she was going to get married and her daughter was going to be in the commercial. So naturally, my mum was like, oh my God, I would really love my daughter to play my daughter in this. This would be an amazing, iconic thing. And they refused because I did not look enough like her. So they hired a blonde with much more fairer skin than I. And she got the role to play my mum's daughter, which is hilarious if you think that no one's ever going to want like my mum than me.
How about that?
I'm, a part of that. But that was an interesting thing because then when I talk about the culture of coming here, some of the best friends I made and still have, were in the black community initially because there was an affinity and an understanding that was very different that I guess I don't understand at the same time. And I'm very open to that. And the fact that I grew up in Australia in a very privileged and space that is a very different thing, but there was an opening and acceptance that I hadn't felt at times in my life growing up in Australia, you know, and then, you know, when I was trying to change myself a lot, and I dyed my hair blonde, I lost a little weight, I tried to turn myself into what they classified as like the perfect Australian so that I could book work. So it's a very deep thing, but I think it's interesting that you felt that and the judgment and knowing that, you know, there is still a problem. I think that we still have a idea of what we think, you know, things are, and we need to definitely develop that. I think we need to develop that across the world. I think, you know, people need to take off their glasses and start seeing the world as that diversity is something to be celebrated, you know.
And a lot of times it does start with a conversation.
Always.
And if you hear me, you see that I'm not what you may expect me to be or what you have seen or what you perceive something to be. You just have to hear me. Take the time to do so.
The essence of what I love so much about living in the States is that people are willing to have a lot more of these tougher conversations and these hard conversations, even if you don't like what the other person is telling you.
Or how uncomfortable it makes you feel.
It may feel.
Makes you feel.
People are they'll never shy away from having it. Whereas, you know, sometimes in Oz, I feel like we have this tendency to want to kind of like make everything okay all the time. So when I go, oh, you'll be right. She'll be right,
mate.
And whether it's mental health or the, like, you know, talking about the depth of racism in Australia and how and some of these uncomfortable things that exist, you know, people are like, you know, oh well, that was a different time. Let's just like keep moving on. We don't need to kind of stop and talk about that. Whilst I understand the need to not want to dwell, and I think that's where it comes from with Aussies, I think sometimes we miss out on the important parts of having these really deep layered conversations about serious issues that affect us on a day-to-day basis. And that's probably why there's still certain problems in our culture at home that have never really changed in the way that we want them to, because we're not having enough of those conversations.
Yeah. And those experiences leave you with something. It's more than just a bad taste in your mouth. There's a feeling, there's a scar that you're left with.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I was there and I felt a lot of love. Dan Durda. If not for Dan, I would have truly suffered. But through him, I got a job with John Ibrahim, who was the king of the cross, as I said. And that changed everything for me. And the joy of that. I mean, so I have wonderful memories of such love from people that were very embracing. Hence, I did not want to leave. I mean, it was supposed to be just 2 weeks, kangaroos. But I stayed a whole year and still didn't want to leave. And definitely want to go back.
I mean, that's the thing. It's the people that you meet, right?
Along the way.
Friendships that you make along the way. And there are some great people, even if there are some experiences that, you know, are hard to digest. They shape you, right? It's the culture that shapes you. You know? So.
And it's those memories. You know, and that conversation that we all crave, for the most part, I still crave that conversation. I would still like to find some of those people, and I still say, I wonder what happened to so-and-so, you know?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I definitely do.